In our Sunrise Smart Start, a house badly damaged after a fire earlier this morning in Irondequoit. Firefighters responded to St. Paul Boulevard around 3:30. The owner of the home was sent to the hospital for smoke inhalation. The cause of that fire is under investigation. Beginning tomorrow, Rochester will have a new mayor. Malik Evans will officially begin his term and will hold a swearing-in ceremony at Eastman Theater on Gibbs Street Saturday at noon. During Evans' first week in office, his administration will be visiting several businesses and community organizations. Evans also plans to meet with teenagers in the community to address programs and new initiatives to cut back on crime involving the city's youth. Well, all of this comes as Rochester saw its deadliest year on record with 81 homicides in 2021. The previous record was 69 back in the 90s. Last year, there were 51 homicides. According to Rochester Police, gun violence accounted for 72% of all fatal incidents in 2021. Evans says making the city safer must be a community-wide effort.
Eradicating violence from our community will take a whole-of-community approach with clear communication and effectual coordination. We need to make sure that we have increased job training program, that we are providing people all the socio-emotional, economic support in order to make them not to go down that path.
Evans has also discussed bail reform in Rochester. The incoming mayor says he and his team will review the data when his term officially begins tomorrow. Rochester is mourning the passing of former City Council member Tim Maines. Maines was the first openly gay member of City Council. Mayor James Smith issuing a statement last night saying in part, quote, Tim was also a vocal and well-known activist for gay rights long before his initial forays into politics, and he was incredibly passionate about helping those impacted by AIDS and HIV. He greatly valued public service and in particular public education, where he served up until his untimely death. Tim Maines made Rochester a richer community for his activism and service in both government and public education. Well, now for the latest on COVID-19. In Monroe County, nearly 2,000 new COVID cases have been reported, raising new concerns among health officials. Local leaders say the high number is still due to a backlog from the holiday weekend, which will take a few more days to clear up. More than 500 people are hospitalized with the virus in the Finger Lakes region. 121 are in the ICU. Wayne County health officials reported 171 new cases during an update yesterday. That's a record high for that county. The Rochester City School District is asking all students to take an at-home rapid test before returning to school next week. Test kits were sent home with students before winter break. Last week, the district said it would be prepared to return to remote learning if necessary. Well, it's time now to get another check of our morning forecast from James.
Yeah, we're looking at some light rain, which is, interesting to see. The morning of any December would probably feature snow, but just not the case. Today, we've got very warm air, upper 30s, so it's a cold rain, certainly, but nothing we can't handle as these rain showers slide by. I'd say they last for another couple hours, to about 9 or 10 a.m., then fizzle out. There's the numbers: 38, Webster, Brockport, Henrietta, Victor at 36 degrees. We should be eventually getting into the 40s, and it's a nice night if we're heading out for New Year's Eve activities. Going out to dinner, maybe afternoon highs in the mid-40s. We'll hold in the 40s through the overnight. Katrina?
Thanks, James. Well, styrofoam takeout containers and packing peanuts will no longer be used in New York beginning tomorrow. Officials say this move is to prevent plastic waste buildup in landfills across the state. However, the ban is causing concern for local restaurants and other businesses. One local restaurant owner says having to change products is costly.
As a chef, you don't want to put stuff in something that's going to make your food not as good when it gets home. That's the biggest problem with switching products. They have some good stuff out, but unfortunately it's quite a bit more expensive. This one, unfortunately, you're going to probably see a 1 or 2% increase on every item on the menu.
According to the DEC, nonprofits and government agencies that provide food to those in need can get a waiver from the law's requirement. That includes food pantries, soup kitchens, and places of worship. More than 250 nursing homes across New York are joining together to protest a new law mandating ways the care facilities can spend their revenue. A federal lawsuit filed Wednesday aims to overturn a new state law that would require the facilities to spend at least 70% of their revenue on direct resident care and at least 40% on staff who deal with residents. The companies running the homes will not be allowed more than 5% in profits. The new law is set to take effect in the new year. The civil rights complaint claims the laws violate constitutional amendments against undue seizure, excessive fines, and due process, and claims the state has not provided any guidance despite the impending start date. President Biden and Russian leader Vladimir Putin spoke for nearly an hour about Russia's troop buildup at the Ukraine border. Biden warned Putin that the U.S. could impose new sanctions on Russia if it takes further military action against Ukraine. In return, the Kremlin said Putin threatened a complete rupture of relations with Washington. Nationally, travelers are now being urged to avoid cruises in new guidance out from the CDC, no matter their vaccination status. More than 5,000 new COVID cases on cruise ships were reported in the last 2 weeks. The CDC said it has more than 90 cruise ships under investigation or observation as a result of new coronavirus cases. In Colorado now, wildfires have destroyed over 500 homes near Denver and have forced over 30,000 people to evacuate. The state's governor has declared a state of emergency as a result of the rapidly spreading flames. The wildfires sparked when strong winds knocked down power lines around 11 o'clock yesterday morning. The National Weather Service reported a 105-mile-per-hour wind gust yesterday around noon. Time now for the GRE Morning Business Report. As COVID cases skyrocket, another home test gets the green light. The FDA has authorized emergency use of a new home-based COVID-19 test from Siemens Healthineers. The tests are expected to be available beginning in January. The last economic report of the year is out, and according to the Labor Department, first-time filings for weekly jobless claims fell by 8,000 to 198,000 last week. That was better than expected and is close to the lowest level in more than 50 years. Minimum wage is set to rise in a record number of states and cities next year. Starting January 1st, the minimum wage will increase in 21 states and 35 cities and counties across the nation. The hourly rate will hit or surpass $15 in 33 of those jurisdictions, and more states and localities will follow suit later in the year. That's according to analysis released this month by the New York-based nonprofit group National Employment Law Project. It might be tough to find some of your favorite champagne to ring in the new year. The reason? Pandemic-related supply chain issues, a poor harvest, and booming demand. As a result, champagne prices are skyrocketing, and it's not just the bubbly itself. There's a shortage of bottles, labels, and the boxes to ship it in. Well, here's a look at what some folks might be talking about around the water cooler this morning. The top 4 teams in college football will take the field tonight for the 8th annual college football playoff. Alabama will take on Cincinnati in the Cotton Bowl at 3:30. Georgia will face Michigan beginning at 7:30. The winner of each game will receive a spot in this year's national championship coming up on January 10th in Indianapolis. Well, James is back now with another check of our weather. Yeah. Warm for this time of year, for sure. Yeah, certainly. Warm and then pretty quiet today, but wild weekend, certainly. We're going to be busy the next couple days, so you want to definitely keep a pulse on the weather. I know there's a lot of fun activities happening this weekend, but just understand that there could be some issues, especially Sunday, with that mix to snow. Maybe some ice very early, turning into snow in the afternoon. So if there's one big takeaway that I want you to have is that we could have some slick road conditions, certainly, for the second half of the weekend. But let's not get too ahead of ourselves. We've got a nice afternoon, mid to upper 40s. So get out and enjoy the last day of 2021. Putting a bow on the year. And hopefully we'll start to see winter. I know my kids would love to use some of the new sleds they got for Christmas. I would love to see some action in the resorts. Yeah, hopefully we get some snow there too. Well, that's all the time we have for this morning. Thanks so much for watching News 8 at Sunrise. Our next update's coming up in 30 minutes. CBS Mornings is next.